Speechless. In the early 90s, as a new mediator, I was assigned to a dispute resolution session, which was moderated by an experienced trainer. I was impressed by his ability to keep the parties focused on the issues, gently steering them away from assumptions and bruised tempers to their own aha moments. His name was Donn, and that he could do this without the ability to see revealed a capacity for listening that I longed to develop in myself, not to mention to share with a loving partner, which in time he would become. We were inseparable until the ravages of the disease that had first taken his sight took his life as well. In those 22 years, I found that he not only was a skilled listener, but a skilled teacher as well. He would readily cite philosophers and writers as he nudged me, sometimes humorously, away from bad habits. With a wry smile on his face, he might quote Mark Twain. Better to remain silent and be thought a fool than speak and remove all doubt. I'd been known by the nickname Yakima for years, so this would prove to be a life-changing bit of advice. We learned to negotiate the challenges of living together as a sided and a not sided couple, developing ways of communicating that didn't have the benefit of those countless gestures and facial expressions that subtly convey so much information and emotion. Of course, there were times when I was glad that an eye roll of mine weren't fortuitously undetected by him. I'm a judiciary interpreter. One of the risks of my work is that the repetitive strain of continuous speaking can damage the vocal cords. After a series of particularly long court proceedings, I was devastated to find that I developed nodules, which could only be remedied by surgery. The operation was hazardous in that with one tiny wrong movement, the surgeon could nick one of the cords, leaving me unable to fully recover my voice for life. To add to that, after the surgery, I'd have to be absolutely silent for 6 weeks. Not a word, not a peep, or I'd risk redamaging my cords. What would have been difficult under normal circumstances was multiplied many times over by Donn's blindness. We talked it over, anticipating the communication problems we'd face on my return home. I wouldn't be able to ask him how he was feeling or what he wanted to do. It would be useless for me to write notes to him as he couldn't read them. We also had to figure out a way for me to let him know when I was approaching so he wouldn't be startled if I were to touch him or to make a sudden sound, say with a closing door or a crashing pot or pan. Finally, after overcoming our fears, I had the surgery, which, to all appearances, went well. At home, we created some workarounds. Text-to-speech technology was a godsend. I would type what I wanted to say, and Google would talk to Donn. That worked, though slowly. But since electronic speech had no intonation at the time, Donn sometimes felt hurt by my mechanically enabled responses, thinking that I was annoyed, impatient, or angry with him. And I was left utterly unable to assure him. We also developed a simple hand clapping vocabulary which I could use to answer his questions. 1 clap meant yes. 2 claps meant no. 3 claps meant I don't know. But my favorite was 4 claps. I love you so. Despite some aggravating moments, things worked fairly smoothly until one night when I heard a resounding crash in the bathroom. Donn had lost consciousness and was sprawled in that very confined space. Running in, I knew that when he came to, he'd feel confused and upset and would need physical and verbal help to get up. There was just no way around it. I would have to speak, no matter what the consequences to my voice. So I took a deep breath, cradled his head in my hands, and quietly said, I'm here. You fell. You're going to be all right. We'll get through this together. And so we did, through the remaining weeks of silence, until the day when, accompanied by Donn at the medical center, the surgeon gave me permission to say something at last. A bit hoarsely, a bit whistly, I spoke again to Donn for the first time since his fall. Hi, sweetie pie. It's your Yakima. That period of shared speechlessness and blindness showed us that even in the face of loss, what truly matters remains. It reminded us how precious it is to have someone to whom to say, I love you so. And it brought out in me the very qualities that I had seen in Donn when I first heard him listen intently and respond so sensitively at that mediation years earlier. If he were here, he would no doubt remind me of the words of the poet Rumi. The quieter you become, the more you are able to hear.